for satisfying the needs and wants of the consumer. That is, when the organization sells its product directly to the consumer to satisfy the needs of the end consumer, then that is known as retailing, right? It is very important that there should be a strategical retail planning if you really want to be successful in that. Today we'll start with strategic retail planning process, right? What is strategic planning? Right, I hope now this is clear. What is retailing? Retailing is when the organization sells its products and services directly to the end consumer to satisfy the needs and wants of the consumers directly, right? Strategic planning is a process by which an organization foresees its future and develops the necessary procedures and operations to achieve its objective. It is very important that you should have that every business or the organization should have certain objectives. And in strategic planning, what we do, what the organization do in strategic planning, the organization foresees its futures and develops the necessary procedures and operation to achieve its objective. How that business can achieve its objective, that foresees the condition and then develops the procedures and operation to achieve the targets, right? There are the steps for the strategic planning process. Develops the necessary procedures and operation to achieve its objective. How that business can achieve its objective. That it is very important that there and then develops the procedures and operation to achieve the targets. Right? There are the steps for the strategic develops the necessary procedures and operation to achieve its objective. How planning business can achieve its objective. That is very important and then develops the procedures and operation to achieve the targets. Is the CEO committed to for the strategic prior to starting a new strategic planning process, it is necessary to identify the earlier planning approach that have been used in the organization and determine how the organization culture may have been affected. It is very important. Strategic planning is important. In strategic planning, we foresee the conditions. What will happen and how can we achieve our target or the objective? What all procedures we should follow to achieve our target in near future? But to understand this, it is very important to learn from our experiences. It is important to identify the earlier planning approaches that have been used in the organization and how those processes may impacted the organizational culture. What was the effect of those planning or those strategic procedures on the organization? Right? There are the four possible approaches of planning. Right? How you can play a plan? There are four approaches. The first is reactive approach. What is reactive approach? This approach is past oriented. There is often desire to return to the good old days. People seek to undo the changes that has created the present and they fear the future which they attempt to avoid. So this is reactive. Reactive is when we want to follow the previous approaches, right? It is past oriented approach, right? As we all want to go to good old days, right? And we fear the future and we try to avoid that. So the first approach is reactive approach, that we should follow the approach which has been followed previously by the organization. This is a reactive approach, right? Reactive approach of planning, that we should continue with the approaches with our old approach, right? We don't want to change the approach. Next is inactive approach. This approach is present oriented and attempts to preserve the present, which is preferable to both the past and the future. While the present may have problem, it is better than the past. The expectation is that the things are good as they are likely to get and the future will only be worse. Any additional changes is likely to be worse to be for the worse and should therefore be avoided. Inactive, that is, first is reactive. We should go back to the previous one and should follow which we were following. Inactive approach is it emphasizes on the present, right? We should follow the present approach even if there are certain problems, but if we'll change, it can create a further problem, it can enhances the problems, right? So the future, the expectations is that the future will only be worse and any additional changes in the present is likely to be for the worse and should be therefore be avoided, and we should continue with the approach which we are carrying on. This is inactive approach. Pre-active approach, this approach is about envisioning the future, and attempt to envision the future and then to plan for the same. Technological changes is seen as a driving forces bringing about the future which will better than the present or the past. And the planning process seek to position the organization to take advantage of change that is happening around them. That is the pre-active. Pre-active means when we see the future and we try to envision in the future, right? And we plan for the future. This is pre-active approach. Like technological changes, right? These forces bring about the futures, right? That there will, when we see that there will be the technological changes and it is for the betterment of the organization which will be better and than the present and the past. The planning process seeks to position the organization to take the advantages of changing that is happening around them. Whether we want this pre-active planning seeks the position, at what position we want to be, right? So that we can take the advantages of changes. Next is proactive. This approach is about creating the future, designing a desired future, and then looking for the ways to create a future state. Not only the future, a preferred state, but the organization can actively control the outcome. Planner actively shapes the future rather than just trying to get ahead of the event outside their control. So proactive state is whether is the state where one creates the future and creates as well as control the future, right? One creates a future, that is they design a desired future. What type of a future, what you want, you design that type of a future, right? And the future is the preferred stage in the proactive state, right? But the organization can actively control the outcome. Because it's a desired state, you can create a future, you can control the outcome, right? Planner actively shapes the future rather than just trying to get ahead of the events. In pre-active state, we try to get ahead of the events. We try to position ourselves, right? We invade in the future. In pre-active state, we invade in the future. We like the future, right? We try to position ourselves in the future. But in proactive state, we create the future. We design the future. We control the future rather than trying to get ahead of the events in the outside their control, right? Right. So importance of cost effective delivery planning, right? While you are making this strategic planning, right, there are many important things which one should consider, that what type of approach you are planning, whether you are what type of approach you opt, whether you opt a reactive approach, an inactive approach, a pre-active approach, and the proactive approach. Other things depends on your approach, right? Reactive, if it is a reactive approach, okay, fine, follow the rules. Inactive approach, you just follow what is going on. And reactive approach, you try to seek your position, right? And proactive approach, you try to control the future. So everything else depends on your approach. right? How your business will grow, or how your organization will grow, that depends on the on your approach, what type of approach you opt. Then the importance of cost effective delivery planning to evaluate the level of resources needed to move the planning process forward. A self evaluation exercise needs to be undertaken to determine what is the level of internal awareness about the planning process and where it exists. Right? See, it is very important that you should be aware about your resources, what all resources you have, and what all resources you required to move the planning process forward, whether tangible resources or intangible resources. For this, a self evaluation exercises is needed, right? You should be aware about your resources. Part of learning plan is to identification of available internal training resources and acquiring outside resources whenever required. It is very important that you should do your SWOT analysis. You should be aware about your resources, what all resources you have, tangible resources or intangible resources. What is resources? Anything which helps you to accomplish your task is known as a resource, right? Those could be tangible resources or intangible resources. It is very important what all you should be aware about, what all resources you required to achieve your targets and objective, and you have, and what all you required you should have, right? What all you can acquire from the outside to accomplish your objectives. A role of values on organizational work culture, then this plays an important role. The value of organization should be developed by what is important to us, profit or growth. While you are making a strategic planning, it is important that you should understand what is important. It's a profit or growth. Both are important, no doubt. For on every organization, for every business, everything is important. Both is important, profit as well as growth. But what is the main objective? Whether you want to just earn the profit, right, or you want to earn profit as well as you want to grow, right? What is important for you? What type of a culture you want? To what extent is the organization aspire to be value driven? And importance of being good corporate citizen, importance of being a good place to work. All these plays a very important role in organizational culture or in the work culture and in the growth of the organization, right? What type of a culture you provide to your employees, your business depends on that. What are the values and ethics of your business, whether you strive for the profit or the growth, or it is important that how good your place is for work, and how work is done, how conflict is managed, and what accounting procedures are in place. And in retailing, this is very important. All these things are very important. Work culture in retailing, work culture plays a very important role, right? Important role, right? Whether you are value driven, are you providing a value services to your organizer, to the customers, right? Importance of a good corporate citizen, because it helps in making a brand, it creates an image in a consumer's mind, right? So importance of being a good corporate citizen, and importance of being a good place to work. When you have a good employees, they can help your customers better. Your customers can have a better experience because of your well trained, well experienced employees, right? And if your working culture is good, if your place that you, if you have provided a place where one can work uh, happily, right, then it will create an importance, it will create an advantage, right? how work is done in the organization. If there is any conflict between say vendor or between the customer and the business, how the conflict is managed. It is very important to manage the conflicts. What accounting procedures are in place? All these plays an important role. Internal organizational work culture. Is the organization willing to seriously engage itself in strategic planning process? Is the organization ready to confront itself in the performance audit and the gap analysis phase? What is the assumption about the corporate missions? What are the assumption about communicating the strategic plan? Right? So internal organization work culture plays a very important role, because this internal organizational work culture plays an important role in retention of good employees, and in retaining the experienced and trained employees plays a very important role. Again, because it soothes, or it creates an image in customers mind. It enhances the, because experienced, trained, well mannered employee enhances the experience of customer, and in retailing it plays a very important role. So it's very this internal organization work culture plays a very important role. Is the organization willing to seriously engage itself in strategic planning process? Are they really want to make this strategic planning process, or they are just doing for the sake of doing? Is the organization ready to confront itself the performance audit and the gap analysis phase? If there is any gap, right? When you have done your performance audit, and if you found any gap, is organization willing to confront that, to cover up that gap? What are the assumption about the corporate missions? Right? What are the assumption about the communicating the strategic planning? There are the two models of work culture: interpersonal interaction model of work culture and risk and feedback model of work culture. Right? Interpersonal interaction model of work culture. So, power culture. Strong leaders are required to allocate resources. Leaders are firm but fair and generous to the loyal followers. If badly managed, there is a rule by fear, abuse of power for personal gain, and a political games. Right? So interpersonal interaction is power culture. Power culture is where the strong leaders are required to allocate the resources. Leader is the one who takes the decision, and everyone else follows the rules. Leaders are firm, but they are generous. They are fair to their loyal followers, not biased. Right? But if badly managed, there is a rule by fear. But if this culture is badly managed, then the leader could misuse the authorities for the personal gain and political powers. Achievement culture reward results, not unproductive efforts. Work team are the self-directed, rules and structure serves the system, not end by themselves. As possible downside is sustaining energy and enthusiasm over the time. Next type of work culture could be achievement culture. Achievement culture where you reward the results and control the unproductive efforts. Work teams are self-directed, self-efficacious. They don't need much supervision. Rules and structure serves the system, not an end by themselves. A possible downside is sustaining energy and enthusiasm over time. The problem is that it is required that you could keep your workforce motivated, right? It could downside the sustaining energy and enthusiasm over a time. Next type of a culture is a support culture. Employee is valued as an individual as well as a worker. Employee harmony is important. Weakness is a possible internal commitment without the external task focus. So this is support culture where one work as a team and support each other, and employee harmony has given importance, much importance. A role culture, a rule of the law with a clear responsibility and reward system, provides stability, justice, efficiency. Weakness of this system is impersonal operating procedures and stifling of creativity and innovations. That is the rule culture. A rule culture is what? It's not rule culture. Rule culture is what? That there are clear stated rules and responsibilities and the reward system. Everyone has to follow the rules, right? It provides the stability. It provides the justice because everywhere there are the rules for each and everything, and efficiency. Weakness is impersonal operating procedure, and it stifles the creativity and innovation, right? Next is a risk and feedback model of work culture. Again, it is important. This model is based on the following: macho, tough guy culture, high risk, quick feedback of the results, right? Advertising, entertainment, right? Work hard and play hard culture, few risk, quick feedback, right? Sales driven. Risk and feedback culture is like again, that is where there is a high risk but the quick feedback. That is when you advertise the products, right? High risk, you have to pay more but you get the quick feedback. Work hard and play hard culture, that is few risk and the quick feedback, sales driven. Bet the company culture, high risk, slow feedback, and process culture, little to no feedback, concentration on how work is done. Areas of influence determining the strategic planning. Now, this is important, pay attention to this. What all are the areas in retailing which influences the strategic planning where one should concentrate? First one is end consumer, key customer, if not directed by the end consumer. Consumer, customer, customer group in retailing, customer or the end consumers are very important. You should have a proper plan of action for your end consumers. What all type of services will you or the product will you provide to your customers? Who will be your target customers? How will you interact with your customers? In case of any dispute, how will you resolve those disputes? How can you enhance the experience of your customer? How can you make sure that the customer returns to you again, that the customer become a loyal customer, right? It is required to gain new customer and to retain a new customer. How will you retain old customers? How will you gain the new customers? It is easy to gain new customers, but it is difficult to retain old customer. How will you return your old customers? What type of services will you provide? How will you enhance their experience? All these are very important. So end consumer or the end customer or the customer group is the first area where a retailing business or a retail business should concentrate. Retailing is where the business or the organization provides the services or the product directly to the consumer for its consumption, right? Then next is distributors. How will you distribute your product, right? how your product will reach to the end consumer. Suppose there is a demand for the product, but that product is not available. It is very important how will you distribute that product, how will you make it available, that product, to the consumer. Even if you are a manufacturer, right, then again you can provide your services and products directly to the consumer, right, but again you need to have a plan for the distribution. How will you distribute your product, how your product will reach to the, how the consumer will come to know that yes, this product is there in the market. Product transporters, intermediaries, storage services if required, right? You should have a proper plan of action of about the transportation. Even if you are a retailer, right, how you will get the product from the manufacturer or the distributor. You should have a proper plan of action for the distributors, for the transporters, intermediaries if there are any, and the storage services. How much would you like to store? Would you like to store the product according to demand, or if you want to store the product, where will you store, how much will you store? All these are required. Next important area where one should concentrate in retailing business is employees. And consumer and employees, they are directly related. Employees plays a very important role in retailing. A well-trained, experienced employee plays an important role in retailing, because a well-trained and an experienced employee can explain the characteristics and can understand, first of all, can understand the needs and requirements of the customer, and according to the needs and wants of the customer can provide them the services or the products required by the customer. They can enhance the satisfaction level or experience of the customer, or there could be vice versa. A bad employee can create a bad experience, or create a can create a bad experience for a end consumer, and consumer might not turn back to you ever again. But because of a good employee, right, a good employee can enhances the experience. Experienced and a well-educated employee can explain the requirements, needs, characteristics, and how it can satisfy the needs of the consumer. How the product can satisfy the need of the consumer. Employees are very important. Internal sales force, then other support personnel for outside relationships are even important. Contractors, a board of directors, one should pay attention even there. Financial community, finances, right? How will you pay? How much finances you have? Lender, short term or long term, whether you will lend, or if yes, then short term lending will be there, or long term. It is very important. Interested groups, you should concentrate on the interested groups so that you can knock them. Community, local residents plays an important role in retailing. We'll discuss about this in detail, right? Community, that is the local resident, plays an important role, because where you have opened your business, whether there is a demand for the product, right? What type of residential area that is, what type of resident that is, what type of community that is. It plays a very important role. Environmentalists and the social advocates, can they create a problem for you, right? Then industrial and trade groups, pay attention towards them, the industrial and trade groups. It is very important that you should have link with the trade groups, public organization, and the government rules. Are there certain rules which you are supposed to follow, or are you following all the government rules? Pay attention towards this. One should not flaunt any of the rules. It could create a problem and it could bring a bad name to the business. Because in retailing, brand image plays a very important role. Media plays again an important role because it creates an awareness about you. How will people come to know about you? How will you communicate with the people, with the customer? Media. What type of a media will you prefer to communicate? You should concentrate on that. It could be digital media, it could be the traditional media. Traditional media could be the audio media, visual media, or the print media. Right? So all these are the points where one should concentrate in strategic planning. Right? While you are thinking to start a business, retailing business, all these should be considered. Consider about your customer, consider about the distribution, transportation, intermediaries, storages, employees, internal sales force, contractors, then finances, lending, interest group, about the community, government rules, media, environmentalist, and other industrial trade groups. You should have a proper plan of action. That's why I started it from here. Situational analysis, identifying the current issues. Situational analysis. What is situational analysis? Situational analysis is identifying your surroundings, where you are, where you want to be. Is there anything around you which possesses threat to your health and safety? This is situational analysis, right? So it is very important that you should analyze your situation and identify the current issues. If there are certain issues, identify those issues and try to control those issues. Some of the business tools that are used for situational analysis are environmental modeling, competition analysis, knowledge analysis, and again environmental modeling. Environmental modeling. The tool help us to perform macro analysis of the following factors that may affect the retailer's business dynamics. Environmental modeling means external factors. There are certain, if we can do analysis, we can do macro analysis and the micro analysis. Internal and external analysis. External analysis or the macro analysis is which is not under your control. External factors are not under your control, but those factors can impact your business. Right? So environmental modeling is external factor. Right? This tool helps us to perform a macro analysis. Macro analysis about what? About the retailer's business dynamics, how it can affect the retailer's business dynamic, right? Like raising prices, rise in price, can impact our business. Definitely will impact our business. Consumerism, whether people want to purchase, have the money to purchase the product. Consumerism, employee attitude towards the work, national and world economy. It impacts our business. If economy is going down, whether it's national economy or world economy is going down, definitely people will not prefer to spend much. And if economy is booming, consumerism will go up. People will prefer to purchase. Then technological development plays an important role. It impacts their business because it impacts our production system. It can impact our communication system. Right? Next is industry. What is the structure of the industry? In which industry you are? What are the marketing strategies of those industry? Financing issues, government regulations related to that industry and the products. All these are environmental modeling or the external type of a factor, right? These are not under our control. Price rise is not under our control. Employee attitude towards work is somewhat controllable but not fully controllable. National and world economy is not under the control of the business. Technological development is not under the control of the business. Industry structure, marketing strategies, financing, government policies and regulations, all these are environmental modeling. Next is competitive analysis. What is competitive analysis? Does anyone provide substitute goods or services to the same market? Analyze your competitor. It is very important that you should be aware about your competitors. You should be aware about the structure of the market. You should be aware about the competition. Who all are your competitors? Is there anyone or does anyone provide substitute goods or the services to the same market? Do we have an early warning system to detect competitor strategies? What type of strategies they follow? Do we have any system so that we could come to know about their strategies and accordingly we can compete with them? We can make our strategies and compete with them and can have position ahead of them. Right, so it is important that you should be aware. Does anyone provide the substitute? If there is anyone, do we have a system through which we can detect the competitors' strategies? Can we create a substantial differentiation through building internal capabilities across the following, like cost efficiency? Can we create a substantial differentiation from our competitor? It is very important that why should I being a customer, I'll ask why should I purchase your product, not your competitor's product? How different you are from your competitor? It is very important that there should be a substantial differentiation between you and your competitor. And in retailing minded, it is very important. You can create a substantial differentiation through building internal capabilities like cost efficiencies. Cost. If I am getting a similar type of a product at lower cost, I prefer to purchase that product which I am getting at the lower cost. Why should I purchase your product? So, can we differentiate on the basis of cost efficiency? Right? On the basis of cost, can we compete with our competitors? Can we have advantage on the cost side? Maximizing return on capital employed. We should get the returns on the capital. Reducing the product sourcing cost. How can I cost the cost efficiencies? Reducing the product sourcing cost. Reduce the expenses in marketing and administration. Can we do that? Can we have competitive advantage then? You have to analyze this. Strategy development. Next was strategy development. We need to formulate a mission statement which should include why do we exist? What is the purpose of the business? What we want to do? What goods and services are we offering? For whom? That is the market segmentation. Geographic, social, financial, ethnic, are we catering to? How do we achieve the market strategy? Right? Then after doing this, it is required that you should formulate a mission statement, that you should know why do we exist? What is our mission? What type of services or product we want to offer, where we are offering, and to whom we are offering, we want to offer that product, and how we can achieve the market strategy. What are the present and future possibilities? What are our distinctive competencies or critical success factors? These are very important. What are the present and future possibilities for us? It should be very clear to us. What are the present possibilities as well as what are the future possibilities for us? What are our distinctive competencies? How we are different from others? What are our critical success factors? What is our USP? Right? How we are different from others? We have to convey this to our customers, then only we can grab the customers. Strategic development task is an essential two-step process. Firstly, identifying the strategic thrust, and second is determining what culture is required to support the chosen strategy. The basic strategy will fall into one of the three focuses, that is the operational excellence, product leadership, or customer intimacy. We can follow, that is what type of strategy we follow, right? That we can follow one of the three, that is operational excellence. Operational excellence means we can provide the product and services at the low price and efficient customer services, right? We can provide efficient customer services which enhances the experience, which can enhance the experience of customer. See, if I am getting something at the low price and after that I am getting the after sale services and other customer services at very low price, or even if not at the low price, but the customer services are very good, then these are known as the operational excellence. Whether you want to achieve the operational excellence, operational excellence means you are providing these services, very good services, in fact very efficient and good services to the customer, or you are providing the low price services. Next is product leadership. Product excellence and innovation. Product leadership means your product are the excellent and innovating. No one else is offering that type of a product. Your product is different from others' product. Your product is innovative. Third is customer intimacy. emphasizes on customer relationship with a specific segment. That is, when you have a very good relationship with your customer, when you maintain or when you emphasize on a relationship, good customer relationship, right? So first is you can choose any one of the strategies. Deliberate strategy. This process starts with an analysis of company's current mission and strategies. The most popular tool used in this process is SWOT model. This model is very important. SWOT. What is SWOT? Strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. One should be aware about one's strength, weaknesses, what opportunities are available, and what are the threats. The external environment, in terms of opportunities and threats, is analyzed by examining the threat of the company's current positions and the new opportunities. See, SWOT analysis is strength weakness. It is an internal environment, internal matter. You can analyze your strength. Your strength could be your cost-effective product. Your strength could be your relationship with your customers. Your strength could be your employees. Your strength could be your innovative product or the your services. This could be your strength, right? Weaknesses, you must understand, you must know about your weaknesses. Your weaknesses could be financial constraints or any other weaknesses if you have any, right? It is very important that you should work on strength and weaknesses. You should enhances your strength, work on strength and try to overcome your weaknesses, right? So it's a matter of internal, it's an internal matter to the organization. But opportunities and threat is an external environment. It is related to the external environment because it depends on the government policies. Opportunities or the threat depends on the government policies, about on the industry, in which industry you are, right? On the economic factors, national or world economic factors. These are not under your control, right? And these are used or analyzed by examining the threats to the company's current position and the new opportunities which a company can avail, right? The analysis proceeds by examining the company's internal environment in terms of its strengths and weaknesses. The next step is to develop the functional strategies that supports the overall business level competitive strategy. Finally, the control system, that is the organizational structure, is designed to ensure that the operational decisions are made consistent with the business and the functional strategies, right? Next is emergent strategies. Emergent strategies are results of incremental decision making that achieves some degree of consistent over time and launches the organization towards a direction. A decision are taken or a problems are solved that have potential strategic impact. The execution of strategy happen across the corporate level, business level, and the functional level. Emergent strategies. The execution of the emergent strategy can happen at the corporate level, it could happen at the business level or the functional level. What is corporate level strategy? Corporate level strategies in which particular retail segment business should we be operating? What is the purpose of these business? What type in what retail segment we are? What is the purpose of these business? This is corporate level, right? There are the following strategy. There are certain strategies that can be considered by the corporate level team, and this is known as integration, forward integration, that is gaining ownership or control over distributor or retailers, right? This is forward integration. Integration corporate strategy includes the integration type of a strategy, that is gaining ownership or control over distribution. Backward integration, seeking ownership or control of the suppliers, that is when you want to gain control over the distributor, right? That is forward. When you want to gain control over the supplier, that is backward integration. Horizontal integration, seeking ownership or control over competitor, that is horizontal integration. Diversification, right? Concentric, adding two or more related product in a line, right? Conglomerate, adding new but unrelated product in a line. Joint venture could be there. Market penetration could be there, right? Joint venture is when two or more sponsoring firm form a separate organization, and market penetration is when you want to increase your market share, that is the market penetration. So it is very important that if you want to enter into a retail business, you should have a proper strategic planning, right? Let me summarize what we have discussed today. Is what is retailing? Say retailing is if any business provides the product or services directly to the consumer to satisfy his or her needs directly. That is known as retailing, right? Retailing is very competitive type of a business, and before entering into a retailing business, it is required that you should have a proper strategic planning, right? What is strategy? We discussed about what is strategic planning, right? And how can we do this strategic planning, right? Strategies, as we know, what is this strategy? When we make strategy planning is what it is nothing but a process in which organization foresees the future, right? When an organization foresees the future and develops the necessary procedures and the rules and the operation to achieve the objectives, that is strategic planning, right? In retailing, it is very important that you should be able to foresee the future and accordingly foresee the requirement of the consumer, and accordingly make the procedures or operations so that you can achieve your targets, right? It is important. There are the four approaches. There could be the four approaches of the planning we discussed. That is the reactive approach, proactive approach. We discussed about the reactive approach, in which we felt like that past strategy was good and we want to follow that. We want to continue that. That was the reactive approach. Inactive approach. Before that, inactive approach is what? Inactive approach is where we see the present, and even if there are certain problems in the present, we find it it's better than the future, right? We don't want to change according to the future. Then the reactive is sorry proactive. Then comes the preactive. Preactive is when you invade in the future, and when you invade in the future and prepare yourself according to the requirements of the future and try to position yourself in the future. That is the preactive approach. And next is the proactive approach. Proactive approach is where you create and design the future, and where the company or the organization design the future and can control the future. So what type of strategy you want to follow, whether you want to follow the reactive approach, inactive approach, preactive approach, or proactive approach, that totally depends on the business, right? Then we discussed about the cost effective delivery planning, right? That it is very important that resources plays a very important role, right? It is important that you should be aware about your resources, right? And the organizational culture plays an important role while you are making strategies, there are certain factors or the dimension on which you should pay that you should pay importance, right, to those factors. Like the first factor is your customer, right? While making a strategies, while making a plan it according to your customer, whom you want to cater, right? Who are your customer, what you want to cater, how will you cater, how will you interact with your, how will you interact and communicate with your customer. So the first factor which plays, or the areas which influences the strategic planning, is your end customer. Next could be your distributor, right? How your product will reach to the customer. How next could be your communication, how will you communicate with your work group, with your customers, right? Then transportation plays an important role, it is an important factor. Intermediaries, storage services, employees, well trained, well educated, experienced employees plays a very important role in retailing, right? Then comes your financial system, your storage system, your lending system. That means your financial soundings. Then your interest groups, community, that is local resident, what type of community you want to cater, or in which you want to open the your store, right? And then you should consider about the environmentalist factors and the socialist factors and advocates, government rules and policies. You should take into consideration the laws, policies framed by the government, right? Public organization, media plays an important role in retailing. You should pay attention to the media, right? Right. And it is important that in strategic planning that you should analyze the micro factor as well as the macro factor, right? Before for any business to survive, uh, uh, it is important, and to start and to survive, it is important that you must be aware about your external and the internal factor, right? And or you can say micro and the macro factor. SWOT analysis plays an important role. It is an important tool in strategic management. SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. Strength and weakness is an internal factor. Micro factors, which is related to an internal to the organization, and external factors are those factors like opportunities are and threats are the external factors, and these are not under the control of any organization. I hope now this is clear. Strategies of retailing. Now we will continue with this in our next lecture. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.